See some people coming in. So hello, everyone who's just popping in. Welcome to the University of the Sciences admissions Q&A presentation, all of that stuff. We're going to be going over some general information about the admissions process with University of the Sciences, and we're going to answer any of the questions that you guys have. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started to let everyone into the room, and then we'll get moving along with our presentation. All right, looks like we got a good amount of people in here. Do we want to go ahead and get started, or think we're good to go?
Let's give it another minute, Morgan, and then we'll get
Sure. Sounds good. I always feel like we should have like waiting room music playing at this point. Awesome. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the University of the Sciences admissions presentation. My name is Morgan Kelly. I'm one of the undergraduate admissions counselors here. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm just going to go over some basic information about the admissions process, some information about financial aid and tuition, and then we'll leave it up to you guys and any questions that you have. So we can just go over anything general that you want to go over, and we are more than happy to help. Awesome, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. So obviously, welcome to the admissions process webinar. So probably the most important part about applying to a university is getting to know your admissions counselor and knowing who to reach out to when you have questions. So obviously for every school, you'll have a different admissions counselor, and you can reach out to the admissions office with any questions that you have. So especially with this year being mostly online, you're probably going to find that you're going to have a lot more questions, and don't feel bad about asking questions. Feel free to text, email, anything it is that you need to your admissions counselors. We're going to be reaching out to you a lot, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. So with that in mind, here on the screen is the University of the Sciences admissions team. So myself and my colleagues, Elise is also here. She's also one of our undergrad counselors. And basically you can find out which one of your counselors are. We go by county. So if you go online to the admissions page and you can go on to which county is available and pick out your county, you'll be able to find your counselor. However, if you're not sure who to contact, that's totally fine. You can reach out to any of us and we'll be able to help you. Okay, so how to apply. So University of the Sciences is a free application, so you don't have to worry about any application fees. We are also on something called a rolling admissions process. So the rolling admissions process basically means that there are no dedicated deadlines. However, we always do recommend applying earlier rather than later. But if you need any additional time, either to take additional tests, do anything else with your transcript, anything else that you want, rolling admissions gives you a little bit more time to perfect that application if you want to or if you need to. But rolling admissions is definitely a nice opportunity to have. We are also available on the Common App. So if any of you aren't familiar with what the Common App is, pretty much it's a third-party website. You go to commonapp.org and you fill out a large detailed application that you can then send to multiple universities. So a lot of universities are available on the Common application, and that is where our application is housed. So you will go to that website to fill out your application for USciences. So this is probably the part that you're the most curious about, which is the things that we will look for in a first year application. So here's a bullet point list of what those requirements are that we'll need. So to start, we're going to look for your official transcript. We're going to look for specific coursework, and I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in a minute. We're also going to look for specific GPAs as well as rank if you have that available on your transcript. We're also going to look for a letter of recommendation from a teacher. We only require one letter. However, you can give us up to 3 letters, and the more the merrier, honestly. I always recommend getting more letters if you can. So those will come from teachers, and then I'll give you a little bit more information about that as well. And then on top of that, you're also going to look for a personal essay. So the personal essay, you have a couple of options with that. The Common application has some essay prompts available right there for you to go through. So you can use any of those prompts to send in the application. However, you can also send in any previously graded English paper that you've written before as well. So any papers that you've written in your English class, you can also submit those as an essay. And then finally, probably the most important part, is the standardized test. So I'm sure you're all aware of the current situation that we are in, and that a lot of you haven't had the opportunity to sit for an SAT or an ACT, because I'm sure a lot of you had had your test canceled multiple times to you. So what's going to happen this year is that traditionally USciences does require some form of standardized test. However, for the fall 2021 class, so students who are currently seniors in high school applying in traditionally for the freshman year, fall 2021, we will be waiving that option. So you will not have to submit an SAT or an ACT in order to submit your application to USciences. So it's not going to be required. We can review the application without the test. However, if you did get a chance to sit for the test, I know some of you beat that March deadline, or if you get the chance to sit for one later on as we continue along the year, you can submit that test score. So it's not going to hurt your application if you send it in. It can only benefit your application. So if you do get a chance to get that test, you're more than welcome to send it in. However, you don't have to if you don't want to, and also you don't have to if you obviously don't get the chance to. So that's definitely going to be a bit different this year. And also, any questions you have about that, continue to reach out to your counselors as well, and we're more than happy to help with those. Okay, so I mentioned before about that required high school coursework. So this is what we're going to be looking specifically on your transcript for. So being University of the Sciences, we do focus a little bit more on mathematics and science. So to begin, I'll look over at the mathematics section. So we will tend to look for about 2 years of algebra, 1 year of geometry, and then we recommend a higher level math in your senior year. So for those of you who are currently seniors, having taken an additional year of math, a higher level math, is definitely going to be beneficial for a lot of reasons. So one of them, obviously, is that it's going to look good on your application. Definitely nice to see that on your application. And then as well, it's going to help you too to be making sure you're staying in tune with your math classes when you get into the college level mathematics when you start as a freshman. So let's say you're a senior right now and you don't have math on your transcript. It's not a problem. We definitely do encourage it, but it's not mandatory. And then over at science as well, we're going to look for specifically in the professional programs. So professional programs, if you're not sure what those are, they are 6-year direct entry doctorate programs. So if you're looking at pharmacy, physical therapy, or occupational therapy, those are professional programs. So if you're applying into one of those majors, we're going to look for about 3 years of a science with a lab. And then if you are applying to a BS or a bachelor's degree program, so that is a traditional 4-year program, we're going to look for about 2 years of science with a lab. And then finally, some examples of what those are. We're going to look for biology, chemistry, physics, things like that on your transcript. Okay, So to kind of give you an idea of what we look for in our students, so this is just a screenshot of what the average of the incoming class is. So these numbers are not the things we look for acceptance into the university. This is just to give you an idea of the types of students who enrolled at University of the Sciences. So with the SAT in mind, the average student for the fall 2019 class had about a 1231 SAT score, a 25.5 composite score on the ACT, and then a 3.6 average on a GPA. And like I said as well, these are not things we're looking for acceptance to the university. This is just an average of what the fall 2019 class looked like to kind of give you an idea. All right, so now we're going to talk about the admissions timeline. So this is something to definitely keep in mind. Even if you aren't a senior, these dates do tend to stay the same. So if you're a sophomore, a junior, and you're in the webinar right now, these will apply to you as well. So August 1st is when the Common Application opened. So if you're currently a senior, the application is open and ready for you to begin. So you can go ahead and head into commonapp.org, begin that application. However, don't feel like you have to rush into it. Nothing's due yet. So also to give you an idea, between October and April is when us, the admissions counselors, will begin the application review process. So this is kind of how the rolling admissions process worked. We will review applications from October of this year all the way into April. However, we always recommend that you apply earlier or as early as you can. So if you submitted your application already, like say you would submit it in August, you're not going to hear back from us until the earliest of October when we begin reviewing that application. So you have tons of time. And then you're also going to want to circle May 1st on your calendar. May 1st is a very important date. That is the priority decision deadline. So pretty much what that means is that is the last day that you can submit your deposit to a university. After that date, you can still submit deposits. However, some things are no longer guaranteed. For example, like guaranteed specific housing, things like that. So May 1st is definitely an important date to keep in the back of your mind. However, you can deposit before May 1st. Most students tend to, but May 1st still is one you'll want to circle. Keep that one in mind as you continue through the year. And then finally, in June, July, all you have to do is submit your final high school transcript to your university, and you're good to go. So I'm going to go through some helpful tips about the application process and just kind of help you give you an idea, especially if you haven't begun the application process yet. So you're going to want to narrow down your list of schools before you apply. So usually the sweet spot number tends to be around like 5 to 7 universities to apply to, and kind of narrowing yourself down to that list is going to help alleviate a lot of stress and kind of make sure you know exactly which schools you're catering your application to. So definitely try and narrow down that list as much as you can. Also apply early. So I know I mentioned it a couple of times. Applying early is definitely going to be helpful. The earlier you apply, the earlier you can hear back with your decision. So usually my personal recommendation to students is to give yourself the timeline and deadline of your Thanksgiving break. So Thanksgiving break's like around the end of November. You come back from Thanksgiving break, you do what, 2 weeks, then you leave again for the winter holidays. You're not going to want to do applications anymore. So you get to the end of November, give that as your deadline to submit everything. Have everything or at least most of your application materials submitted by Thanksgiving, and it's going to relieve a lot of stress. So if you're not sure exactly what kind of deadline to give yourself, I recommend that one. That's a really good one. We also do request recommendations from teachers, and we recommend specifically math or science teachers. This is really nice if you're not exactly sure where to start with who to ask for your recommendation. So especially if you're looking into the majors that we offer, we do tend to focus in research sciences, medical sciences, things like that. So if those are the types of programs that you want to go into, the types of careers you want to go into, having a math and a science teacher write your recommendation letter is going to be really beneficial for your application. So if you're not sure where to begin, math and science teacher, perfect place to start. Also, you're going to want to confirm all of your materials have been received. So that bullet point and then the last bullet point of reaching out to your admissions counselor, I kind of feel like they coincide. So reaching out to us creating that conversation and following up to make sure all of your things have been submitted and received by the university is really important. So let's say, for example, if any of you have submitted your application already, creating that conversation with us, reaching out to your counselor, or just reaching out to the office in general and just saying, hey, I submitted my application. I just want to check on my materials. Did you get my transcript? Did you get my SAT scores? And then we can go ahead and check on those things for you. And then worst case scenario, we don't have them, but then you've started that conversation. We can help you get that piece in. So we can help it get submitted, get your application completed and ready to go. So definitely create that conversation, create relationships with us. We're here to help you. So don't feel bad about asking lots of questions. And then also finally, you'll want to file your FAFSA early. So for anyone who's not familiar with the FAFSA, it is a free application that pretty much just lets us know where to begin when offering need-based financial aid. So everyone should submit the FAFSA, even if you think you won't be eligible for anything. Submit the FAFSA because it's free, and it's definitely going to help out with that process. So that application opens up on October 1st for the current seniors. The earlier you submit the FAFSA application, the earlier you're going to get your financial aid award letter. So financial aid award letters tend to come out in the new year. So if you've gotten your acceptance letter already, let's say you submitted it at Thanksgiving time, you got an acceptance letter right before the winter holidays, come into the new year in January, February, that's when you expect to see financial aid letters. So if you got that FAFSA application in, you are good to go with that. You'll expect to see that paperwork coming in pretty seamlessly. Awesome. So now we talked a lot about admissions. Now I'm going to go really quick with the process of tuition and financial aid and how University of the Sciences is investing in your education. So on the screen right now is a breakdown of each year of our tuition and fees for both our 4-year undergraduate programs as well as the pre-professional years for the 6-year programs. So if you are interested in one of the 4-year bachelor's degree programs, your chart is the top one right at the top. I have no idea what that noise was. Is right at the top. So you can go ahead. Oh, hold on. I'm going to real quick. I just know my computer's going to start making noises. Okay. Ignore that. Anyway, okay. So if you're interested in a 4-year program, you're going to go ahead and look at the top chart. That is what your tuition and fee will look like for each year, broken down each 4 years. Now, if you're interested in a 6-year program, you're going to look at one of the 3 at the bottom. So if you're interested in pharmacy, for example, your pre-professional years are the first 2 years of your program, and that is what that tuition and fee will look like. What's something to keep in mind as well is that the tuition is a frozen tuition sequence. What that means is that these numbers stay the same. They're not going to get any bigger as you go along with those years in pre-professional and then for the 4 years of your undergrad degree. Now here is the second half of that chart for the 6-year programs. So if you're interested in physical therapy, pharmacy, or occupational therapy, and then you move into the professional years or the graduate level of your program, this is what that tuition sequence will look like. However, this is also on a frozen tuition sequence. So again, what that means is that these numbers stay the same. So even when you get to that 3rd year of your pharmacy degree, that number didn't go up anymore since you started as a freshman. So pretty much what it means is that you're going to know the entire cost of your entire education from the very first day that you get to campus. So this is kind of just what I already said, and I would just reiterate it a little bit more so you know exactly what that means. So it is a fixed, transparent price schedule. All of those numbers stay the same for each year that you're at the university. So you're going to know the cost of your degree from the very first day. There's no annual tuition fee increases. So that transparency is really important because at most universities, you're going to see a lot of increases. Those can be anywhere from 3 to 7% added to the tuition every single year. So 3%, 7%, it doesn't seem like a lot until you're adding it on to thousands of dollars. And then that really starts to add up over 4 years or potentially 6 years, depending on what program you're interested in. So with being able to freeze that tuition, it's going to amount to thousands of dollars in savings over those years of your time at the university. And then also because of this, being able to freeze that tuition, it makes us one of the most affordable schools in our region, which we're really proud of. Okay, so to help you pay for that tuition, there are a couple of options. So scholarships and grants, you are eligible for merit scholarships. So merit is something that is based off of academic success, and you don't have to worry about applying additionally for those scholarships. You'll be eligible for those scholarships right away. So as soon as you apply, we're evaluating you for those scholarships. You are also eligible for legacy sibling scholarships. So maybe if you had a family member come to school here, maybe you have a sibling who's already here, there's some scholarships and grants available there. And then we also have honors and athletic scholarships too. Okay, so need-based financial aid. This is the part about the FAFSA that I was talking about. So the FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's kind of a mouthful, but you're gonna make sure you go to fafsa.gov, and you don't have to take pictures of these numbers. You can also get that information from your counselors, but if you wanna take a picture of your screen for future reference, that's totally fine. But you can reach out to us too if you happen to not know those codes later when it comes time. But October 1st, which somehow is coming up very soon, is right around the corner. So October 1st is when you fill out the FAFSA application, which can make you eligible for federal aid from obviously both the federal government, but then also helps us with need-based financial aid. And then pretty much finally, make sure that you contact with us. So like I mentioned before at the beginning of the presentation, creating conversations with us, creating relationships with us is a really great way to make this whole process significantly less stressful. So being able to create that conversation, reaching out to your counselors, texting us is a great way to stay in contact. And I promise that if we text you, it's another person on the other side. It's not a robot. If we text you and you text back, a real person will reply. So please feel free to text us back, reach out to us, anything that you need. You can also contact us on social media. We are available on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at USciences Admit, and you can reach out to us in that way, or you can contact us through our office, and we are more than happy to answer any questions that you have. And I think that was it. Yeah, so that's our whole presentation. So I think I saw some questions coming in. So I think,
thanks, Morgan. Yeah, that was great. And I think what we'll do is we did have some questions that came in, and if anybody has any questions, I know that we have a question in the Q&A right now that we'd like to answer live. If you have any questions, please make sure that you either type them into the Q&A section or into the chat section, and Morgan and I will tackle those questions. So we want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered before you leave our session today. So so a couple of questions that we got here, I wanted to answer, make sure we got this one answered live. So we got a question in the Q&A that said, does statistics count as a higher level math? So I'll go ahead and take that question. So yeah, certainly statistics can count as a higher level math class. Traditionally, if you have the choice between either taking calculus or statistics during your senior year, we would encourage you to take calculus instead of statistics. It will prepare you better for your first semester and your first year at USciences. So during your first year, the majority of students in our programs will be taking pre-calculus and calculus. So if you take the calculus class during high school, that will better prepare you for your first year. If you've already taken calculus, you want to take a statistics class, you are more than welcome to do that as well. And I did want to address some of the other questions that came in. I know that some of you had submitted questions before when you registered as well, so we'll get to those too. But Morgan, I'll go ahead and read this one for you. Can we submit our application early and then submit our SAT score later on?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can. So my recommendation, if you decide to do that, so if you submit your application early, let's say you submit it tonight and you have SATs that you're waiting to take, anything like that you want to send in later, go ahead. We're not going to be reviewing applications until October anyway. So if you get it in before that period, you should be fine. But I would recommend reaching out to your counselor. So the counselor's information is on the page on the screen right now. If you reach out to your counselor, let us know that's what you plan on doing. We can put your application on hold and we will wait until we have those test scores to review the application. So we don't want to review until we have everything it is you want to submit. So if you just let us know, hey, I submitted the application already, but I'm sending in SATs, text your counselor, email your counselor, let us know. We'll put the application on hold. No problem at all. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Thanks, Morgan. And then we also had another question that was submitted beforehand during the registration, and it kind of relates to that. The student had just mentioned that the class rank would not be available, class rank and transcript would not be available until a little bit later in the fall. So that's totally fine, and we completely understand that. A lot of guidance counselors get very busy during the beginning of the year, and especially around into October and November when a lot of students are submitting applications. So it's no problem at all. And like Morgan said, we're on the rolling admission policy. So just submit your application materials as they become ready. You can submit your common application first. If you are planning to submit scores, you can do that as well when they're ready. Same with your letters of recommendation and your transcript. And then once everything is ready, that's when we'll begin to review your application. So no worries if you're still waiting on some of the materials. Okay, so some of the other questions that were submitted beforehand were, one of the questions that we received was if a program requires a separate application process or a second application process, can you apply to it as a prospective student? So I'll take this question. I'm happy to take this one as well. So the good thing about our bachelor's degree programs and also our professional programs is that you don't have to do a second application to submit your application for that program. So when you apply on the common application, you submit your application to the program you're interested in, and you're automatically reviewed for direct entry into that program. So that's true for our professional programs like pharmacy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. It's true for our physician assistant studies program and any of our bachelor's degree programs. So if you apply to that program on the common application, you don't have to do any additional applications or a second application to be considered for your program. And then we had another question that was submitted beforehand. It says, are there any programs for students who want to pursue a career in anesthesiology? So this is a great question. And Morgan, do you want to maybe tackle our pre-health preparation at USciences?
For sure. So we do have a couple of different options when it comes to pre-health. So pretty much if you are interested in going into the medical field, either in pre-med, pre-vet, pre-optometry, I think we have pre-dental as well, anything pre. So that would kind of fall under the pre-med realm of things. If you enroll in one of our programs, a lot of our majors come already built in with pre-health curriculum. So for example, biology, biomedical sciences, neuroscience, those come built in with those programs. Even if they don't though, you can easily add on a pre-health track. What happens if you have a pre-health track added onto your major, you then are enrolled in working with a pre-health advisor. That advisor's whole purpose is to help you with getting into medical school and the process of taking on that additional education for things like anesthesiology. And that will be really helpful for you moving forward when you graduate with your bachelor's degree and then you want to move forward into other schooling. You'll already have all the requirements that you need to then apply to those schools. So pre-health would definitely be the way to take with that for sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Morgan. And we had another question that was submitted in during the registration process. It was regarding any partner programs that we have with medical institutions. So I'm going to put a link in the chat in just a moment here so that if any of you are interested or the individual who had asked about that, you can take a look or check out our list of partner programs that we have for all different types of medical specialties. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for that. And you'll find some information about how to be considered for those programs and also the GPA and certain requirements that the programs are looking for. So I'll put that in the chat in just a moment. So we got another question in the Q&A. So do you put heavy emphasis on extracurricular activities? So I can take this one. So I can say for applicants to the 2021 year, because we are going to be, we're not requiring the SAT and ACT score, we do want to make sure that we're doing more of a holistic review for applicants. So we certainly are going to be looking at your transcript, like Morgan mentioned, your classes that you've taken, the GPA that you've earned, your class rank if it's available, the rigor of the classes that you've taken, but we are going to take everything into consideration. So the types of activities you're involved with, the duration of the involvement in those activities, the different types of activities. So maybe you're involved with service, maybe you have leadership experience, maybe you're involved with a sport, or you have a part-time job, or maybe you have family responsibilities. So you should certainly brag on your application. This is your opportunity to brag. So make sure you're including any activities that you've been involved with during your high school experience and any unique experiences that you've had. Okay, so we have another question here regarding the SAT. So how can an applicant stand out rather than an SAT score? I say this because my SAT was canceled multiple times. Great question. Morgan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So exactly like Elise said, we're going to be looking at a lot of different things on your application this year, including your high school transcript, your extracurriculars. But then honestly, I think some pretty important parts are going to be those other two requirements, which are your letter of recommendation and your personal essay. So this is the perfect time to want to improve your application because those are the two things you have complete control over right now. So you can choose wisely who your teachers are that you would like to write your letters, and then also your personal essay. So because we are a small school, we're a very niche university too, we get to really look into your application that way read your letters of recommendation, read your personal essay. And especially without those SAT scores, we're going to rely a lot more on those materials. So I would say if you're at all concerned about standing out per se, the best things I would say would be to focus on who you choose for your letter of recommendation, and then make sure you have multiple family members, friends, English teachers, whoever read over your personal essay before you finally submit it with your application.
Thanks, Morgan. So we had another question here from a student who asked, I take 2 math classes, IB Math and Calculus 1 honors. How does this help with my application? So yeah, this is a great question. And these are both great classes, very strong classes for you to be taking. And especially if you're taking them both in the same year, if you're taking them both during your senior year. So this is very helpful. I mean, I will say in general too, we do primarily look at math and science classes when we're looking at a transcript, as Morgan had mentioned. So the more math classes that you have, the more science classes that you have, that is definitely going to be beneficial for your application. As Morgan had mentioned, just to reiterate, at a bare minimum, we do need to see Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. But as Morgan had mentioned, we look for classes like pre-calculus, calculus, like you had mentioned, this honors Calculus 1 class that you took, the IB Math class. These are all really strong classes for you to take in terms of being prepared for your first year at USciences. So that's wonderful. It will definitely help your application for sure, just because we'll know the type of student that you are, and we'll know that you'll be able to be successful in those types of courses. Okay, so we had a question here. What kind of extracurricular activity is best for the PharmD program? So that's a great question. And we don't necessarily have one prescribed, oh, that's great. I just made a pharmacy joke. Nice.
Put that one down.
We don't have like one certain track we're looking for in terms of extracurricular activities, just specifically for the PharmD program. But in general, we do like to see a student who's well-rounded. So maybe if you're involved in a sport, or maybe you have a part-time job that you do, or you're involved with clubs or organizations, maybe you have service experience. So you've done community service, or maybe you've gone on a service trip, or you started a service group at your school, like Key Club or something like that. In terms of, I don't know if this person is specifically asking about volunteering experiences or shadowing, but there are not required shadowing experiences to be accepted for pharmacy or any of our health programs. But that certainly can help you to determine that this is definitely something you want to do when you actually go into college and once you graduate and become a professional in the working world. So yeah, there's not really necessarily one focus that we're looking for in your extracurricular activities, but we do like to see a well-rounded student who does well in the classroom, but also who has a commitment to extracurricular activities. And it's definitely a plus if you have shadowing or observing experiences in the field that you want to go into, but not a requirement. Okay, so we have a question here. How would a delayed submission of high school transcript impact consideration for merit scholarships? Morgan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So with the rolling admissions process, that kind of helps to eliminate that stress a bit. So with rolling admissions, you could submit your application today, or you could submit your application in March, and you're still going to be eligible for the same academic success scholarships, merit scholarships that you would have either way. So rolling admissions is nice if you have any delays, if you have anything you want to add on to your application, you're not missing out on anything in that process. So for us specifically, I would say don't stress out too much. Your application will be fine. Any delays that you have, if you're concerned, reach out to your counselor, because we can also help you with that process, go through the process with you, help you to alleviate any stress, or also help with that delay, any kind of issues like that. But rolling admissions is definitely your friend for any delays.
Definitely. And then we had another question, and this is kind of another follow-up, I guess, to the last question I just answered. Does Eagle, Boy Scout, and other community work, like working with juvenile kids and pharmacist shadowing, will that be enough for the PharmD program? That's wonderful. I mean, I would say for this, you want to make sure that this is your opportunity to really shine through. So anything that you're doing, and especially if it's a unique experience, like obtaining your Eagle Scout award or your Gold award, if you're a Girl Scout or something like that is unique, definitely make sure you include that in your application. Even if you're not sure if it would make a difference or not, I would definitely encourage you to submit that. And if you run out of room on the activities list, you can always submit a personal resume as well. So that's something that you could submit through the Common Application. So yeah, I would say those are really great experiences. And I especially like the fact that you have that experience shadowing a pharmacist, because that's a great way to make sure that this is definitely a career that you want to focus on in a field that you want to go into. So I think that would be great. Okay, so we had another question here. Is there a way that I can find out if I'm able to use my college credits from another institution? So Morgan, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. So there's actually a really easy way to find that out. So you can actually, if you just Google USciences transfer credits, something that will come over is called transferring credits on the USciences website. There's going to be a little tool that has a toolbar. You can type in the university or community college that you took those additional credits with, and then every credit that we've already accepted from that school is going to pop up. You can also trust this tool. It's the tool that we use. So don't feel bad about like going in there. It's not going to be out of date. So feel free to pop in any information on there. And then every credit that has already been accepted is already there. If you happen to not see the credit it is that you took already, though, don't worry. It might not necessarily mean that we don't take the credit. It might just mean we need to deeper evaluate it with our counselors. So just reach out to us. We can look into that for you, but there is a tool available online on our website for transferring credits that you can look up on your own if that's something you want to do.
Perfect. Thanks, Morgan. And I also just put the link for that in the chat as well. So if any of you, if you'd like to check it out, if you've taken classes at a local community college or university, you should definitely check that out. I'm also putting, just as a follow-up question, we usually get this question, what AP scores and IB scores do you accept? So I put the link for that in the chat as well. So you're welcome to check that out. If you've taken AP or IB classes, which it seems like just from the questions that we're getting, a lot of you have taken those classes. So that's wonderful. I would say in general for AP scores, we accept usually about a 4 or a 5 on the examination, depending on your program. For some scores, we do accept a 3, but I encourage you to check out that list for the AP and IB score credit that is in the chat. Okay, so another question here, what if a student doesn't take a math course in their senior year? Will it negatively affect the student's admission process? So that's a great question. And no, definitely not. This will not negatively in fact impact your admission process. If you're already a senior and you don't have a math class or a science class on your schedule, that is not something to worry about. In general, the kind of the baseline that we're looking for, again, is that Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. If you were able to take maybe an advanced level class during your junior year, like a pre-calculus, or maybe you already satisfied all your high school's options, like you already took AP Calculus, that is totally okay, and you will not be penalized for that. So no problem at all.
And don't worry if you're stressed out about it. I didn't take math senior year. I turned out perfectly fine.
Okay, and then we had another question about, I take 2 math classes, 2 IB and 2 honors, or 2 math classes and 2 science classes. How can this boost my application? So yeah, and kind of all these related questions. The more science and math classes that you're taking, I think that is a wonderful experience, and especially if they're more rigorous. So there may be an honors class, an IB course, maybe at an HL level, or an AP class. These are all really great classes to take, and that's a wonderful thing to have on your transcript. So any of these types of questions, the more science and math classes that you're taking, especially rigorous classes, the better for sure. So, okay, we have a question. Can you apply if you are a student from a different country? So Morgan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So you can definitely apply as an international student. There is a specific counselor, actually Allison, right on the screen here, works with our international students. So if you do want to reach out with questions, you can reach out to Allison specifically. However, there is also a international student advisor on campus. His name is Bill Keys, and he's a really great contact for you. So if you have questions, you can contact either Allison or Bill Keys over at USciences on our website. I think Elise is probably popping in information on the chat right now.
Yep.
But yes, so you can totally apply as an international student, and we do have resources to help you with the application process and while you are a student here with anything that you need. So 100%, yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Morgan. Okay, so we got a question that says, what is the pre-PA program like? So this is a great question, and we would definitely encourage you to actually attend one of our on-campus events, or we actually have major specific events that are coming up where you'll actually hear from our faculty members, but we can talk a little bit about the program here. So in terms of the pre-physician assistant program, we offer the undergraduate portion at USciences. So basically, if students are applying to that program on the common application, they would apply directly to physician assistant studies as a major, and then students who progress through the program have the option to finish the undergraduate years in either 3 or 4 years. And then they have the option to reapply to our own graduate program for the master's in physician assistant studies. So students can complete the undergraduate portion in either 3 or 4 years. It does require a reapplication process to the graduate program at USciences, but the undergraduate, again, can be completed in 3 or 4 years. So if you have any additional follow-up questions, definitely let us know, but we encourage you to reach out to your admission counselor and also check out the website for additional information. And then, like I said, we are going to be holding some additional major specific webinars over the next month or two. So definitely keep an eye out for that and check out those as well. Okay, so we got a question that says, I did not receive good grades in 2 of my classes due to multiple social problems, so I'm scared that this will weaken my application. Any tips? Morgan, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. So a poor grade doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an automatic rejection. So what's kind of nice about the process that we have with reviewing applications is that we get to look more specifically at your application and then also look for reasons why there might have been a poor score. So something I would recommend too is potentially bringing that up in either your letters of recommendation, like from the teachers, maybe mentioning it in the additional notes in your application. So there's actually a section of the application called additional notes. And that's a good place to kind of pop in anything that you think we might need to know. So if that is something that you're concerned about and you think that there's nothing else in the application that would help us to understand why there may have been a poor grade, feel free to pop that in the additional notes. That helps us a lot when we're reviewing your application. So I would say don't panic too much. A bad grade doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be accepted. It just means that we will look more specifically at some other sections of your application, and any help that you might want to give us in understanding your application is definitely appreciated.
Thanks, Morgan. So we have another question. Do you have any summer courses for freshmen for PharmD to complete the prerequisites? So I guess I'll tackle this, and if I'm not answering it in the way that you were asking, please feel free to restate your question. In terms of the pharmacy program, if you're applying as a first-year student, and I'm thinking that the question is about the required high school coursework, so math and science classes. If you haven't taken, let's say, geometry or algebra 2 or one of those requirements, we have had instances in the past where students may just take a class during the summer, and that could be at maybe your local community college or another university, or even potentially through your high school if your high school offers a summer course. In terms of any other prerequisites for the PharmD program, there aren't any specific courses that are required specifically for that program. It would just be the general university criteria with the science and math guidelines. So if I didn't answer your question correctly, definitely correct me, and you can restate your question on the Q&A. Okay, so we have a question that says, do you have dual admission? So I will, I guess, maybe try to answer this question. I'm not quite sure what the question was about, but if you want to restate that with some additional information, you're welcome to do that. In terms of dual admission, you would basically gain admission to one program when you apply through the common application. So if you apply, let's say, for our physical therapy program, you would gain admission to that physical therapy program. If you were interested in programs like our pre-health program or our pre-med track or something like that, that does not require an additional application process. So you can join the pre-med program or the pre-health track starting as early as your first year, and that doesn't require any additional application process. In terms of other academic opportunities, some of our students will choose to pursue a double major or maybe even a minor certificate in addition to their bachelor's or professional program. So that's a possibility as well. And then the last thing I'll mention here is our integrated graduate credit program. So students in our programs, and for select of our master's and PhD level programs, students are able to start taking graduate level coursework during their undergraduate experience. So that's something that you can begin taking. You can take up to 15 credits as part of your undergraduate experience that would count within that tuition fee structure. So you don't have to pay any additional tuition fees to take those graduate level courses. So hopefully between all of those responses, I maybe tackled the question, but if you have additional questions about that, you can definitely let me know. Okay, so we have another question here. Will USciences help me find a job? So Morgan, do you want to take a stab at that question?
Sure. So we definitely do have a lot of resources on campus to help you with your career search, but then also with helping you to prepare for when you're going out into the field or going on for more schooling. So kind of depending on which major you're in will depend on which path you're taking afterwards. So a lot of our students end up going on for more school after they graduate from undergrad with us, or if you're graduating with one of our undergrad programs that you have opportunities for careers immediately with a bachelor's degree, but then probably more specifically the doctorate programs. So if you're in a doctorate program, our students usually do a lot of clinical rotations, shadowings, internships that they take during their 6th year. A lot of our students have opportunities of actually getting jobs within those opportunities that they have their 5th or 6th year. But then on top of that, we do have a very good communication and connections system with our professors. We also do have career counseling on campus too. So with those doctorate programs, making sure that you have the opportunities to then get a job after campus, after your degree, is very important. So having those connections, creating those experiences is going to be really integral to getting you a job after you graduate. I don't know the exact numbers of like a percentages. I'm not remembering them off the top of my head, but I just know I know they're good. I know we have good track records, and I know you can actually check those out on the website pages for each of our programs, especially the doctorate programs. You can check out our percentage for career placement after graduation, and then look a little bit more into the resources that we offer. But there are a lot of opportunities for assistance on campus when it comes to that specifically.
That's great. Thanks, Morgan. And I'll just add to that as well. In addition to the success of the students in the professional programs, in terms of if you're pursuing a bachelor's degree program, many of our students will pursue either graduate school or medical school or some type of other professional schooling. And we have an excellent track record for getting students accepted into top programs, whether that's for a research-based program or kind of a bench science type program, or more of a medical or health professions program. So we have an excellent track record for preparing our students, and we consistently hear from graduate schools and medical schools and even employers that our students are head and shoulders better prepared than their peers who are graduating from other institutions. So the preparation that you'll receive at USciences is top quality, and you'll be extremely well prepared for whatever your next step is, whether that's going into the workforce or going on to graduate or medical or professional school. Mm-hmm. So we have another question here. Would you also look at essays for clarification on the not so great grades in addition with the other options you mentioned? So yeah, this is great. And Morgan did a really nice job answering this before, but yeah, if you have any grades that you are maybe you don't think reflect the type of student that you are, maybe you had, rocky transition from middle school into your freshman year of high school, and then you improve from there. We completely understand that. And we certainly will consider any additional statements that you provide. So whether that's a personal statement that you provide in addition to your common application essay, whether you reach out to your admission counselor and just send the admission counselor an email explaining the information. As Morgan had mentioned, if you have a letter of recommendation that addresses that, maybe from your teacher or even from your guidance counselor, that addresses the grade that you don't think reflects the type of student you are, we will consider all of those things. So we would rather see a student reach out to us and either reach out to us or include that on the application than just ignoring it and pretending it doesn't exist, because that at least gives us a little bit of background. Because if you don't tell us the background, then we won't know, and we won't be able to read between the lines of what was going on there if there was something going on. So definitely the more information that you provide, the better, whether that's through your Common App or through your letters of recommendation, your essay, or through reaching out personally to your admission counselor. And if the individual who asked that, if you have follow-up questions or that wasn't, we didn't answer your question full enough, just let us know. So we've exhausted all the questions that were typed into the Q&A section, as well as the chat. So if you have any additional questions, we would love to hang on and answer those for you. If you don't have any additional questions, then we, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Morgan, for your presentation. But like I said, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to type in the chat or the Q&A, and we will hang out and answer those for you. And we look forward to working with each of you throughout your application process. Thank you, Christopher, for joining. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining today. It was such a great opportunity to be able to get to know you a little bit. Or not to get to know you, but to see your names. We'll be able to see some familiar names once we start to review our applications.
Maybe someday we'll see some faces.
Yeah.
One day. One day,
yep. All right, everybody, as we mentioned, if you have any additional questions, just let us know. We'll hang on for a couple more minutes and give you that opportunity. Oh, we had a question here about when can we visit campus? That's an excellent question. So you can visit campus now at any time. We are offering tours, so they are available Monday through Friday during the week, and you can sign up on our website. I'll put the link in the chat here. We also have other visit opportunities that are coming up on campus, including our fall open house events, which are going to be happening on the weekends. Those are going to be much smaller than they normally would, just to make sure that we're being safe and using precautions with everything that's going on. And we are also going to be having some additional smaller major specific events coming up over the fall too. So definitely keep your eyes out on the website, which I'm going to put in the chat right here. And then you can check out the emails that you're receiving from us too, because you guys will get some emails about that as well. Oh, okay. My colleague put the link in the chat here already. Okay. Okay, so thanks. And do you have any advice for juniors? So that's a great question. So as a junior, we would definitely encourage you to just kind of start thinking about your application process in terms of, what you potentially would be interested in applying for, maybe looking at potentially getting some shadowing experiences or observing experiences if there's something that you're looking for in the health field. In regard to other preparation, you want to just start to think about what your transcript looks like. So you want to work really hard this year, make sure that you're finishing out the year strong in terms of your grades and your coursework. You want to begin planning for your senior year schedule. So as we had mentioned before, trying to take a math and both a math and a science class during that senior year, that is going to be very beneficial for you. In addition, as you kind of start to get to the end of your junior year, we encourage you to look at who you're potentially going to ask for a letter of recommendation. So usually at the beginning of the senior year, some of the teachers who might be a little bit more popular may be a little swamped with writing letters of recommendation. So if you ask your teachers before you leave at the end of the junior year, they can either potentially work on that during the summer, or they will know immediately when you start school the next year, they'll know that you're going to be asking for a recommendation letter. And then some of the other preparation I would say is if you have the opportunity to work on your essay during the summer, that's also a great idea to kind of get a head start on your common application and just get that essay ready. So those are kind of the tips that I would say in terms of getting yourself prepared. It's always good to start to even prepare for taking the SAT and ACT, even if you're not sure that you're going to take it. There are a lot of free resources out there that can help you with preparation and with studying, even as little as doing an SAT question per day. There are apps that offer that. So those are some things to think about. Okay, and then can we apply even after taking a gap year after high school? Absolutely. Yeah, we do have students who apply after taking a gap year, so that's certainly a possibility. As long as you don't take any courses at any other institution. So if you're taking classes at another university or community college, you would be applying as a transfer student. But if you don't take any classes at any other institutions, you can absolutely apply. And we encourage you to tell us a little bit about what you were doing, especially if it's something exciting or something unique. We encourage you to maybe even write your essay about that. But yeah, absolutely no problem at all. We certainly have worked with students who've taken a gap year in the past. Okay, so someone asked, can you explain how the gap year works? So sure. So some students choose to take a what's called a gap year, or just kind of a break year between their high school experience, so from their senior year before they actually enter college. So some students will take a year off, or maybe even more than a year. And so students will pursue all different types of opportunities, whether that's a work opportunity, an opportunity to maybe travel or do some abroad traveling or something like that. There's all kinds of different opportunities that students may potentially pursue during a gap year. So that's kind of the information about what a gap year is. So there are not many students take advantage of that in terms of the students who are attending USciences, but certainly an option to apply after the gap year if that's something you're considering. So another question, I guess a follow-up for that question, it says still will it consider as freshmen? So I think you mean after the gap year. So absolutely, as long as you don't take any classes at another institution, if you don't take any classes at community colleges or other institutions, universities, colleges, you will still be considered a first-year student. Okay. If anybody has any additional questions, definitely let us know. You can type them into the Q&A or the chat. We'll hang out here for a couple more minutes.